If you want to improve your English vocabulary, then this lesson is just for you because I'm going to give you 30 advanced English adjectives. So, as always, welcome back to GSL-English. My name is Gideon, and I'm here to help you speak natural, fluent, and confident English. And today, we are going to do that by focusing on vocabulary. I'm going to give you 30 advanced English adjectives that you can add to the vocabulary you already have. Now, the words that we are going to look at today can be used in many different situations. We can use them in general conversation with friends and family. We can use them in a more formal setting, in a business environment. Basically, we can use them anywhere. But one thing I would like you to do as we go through this class is think about how you could use each word in your own life. So think of the last week or month that you've had, or your days and weeks that are coming up, and think, could I use any of these adjectives in those personal situations? If you can apply these words to your life and give them context, you are much more likely to remember them and add them to your vocabulary permanently. So just a little idea as we go through this class, but just sit back, relax, and enjoy some new vocabulary with me. So what we are going to do, we are going to take 15 regular and standard adjectives, and I'm going to give you 2 alternative advanced adjectives you can use for each of those words. But please remember, we are not here to remove words from our vocabulary. So the regular and standard adjectives that we look at, we still use them. We still keep them in our vocabulary. But I'm going to present to you some advanced alternatives or additional words that you can use as well. We never want to take away from our vocabulary. We simply want to add to it, to build upon what we already have. So don't stop using words, just start adding to the vocabulary you already have. Okay? Please keep that in mind. We do not take words away. So let's get straight into it with our first set of advanced adjectives. So the first regular standard adjective we are going to look at is good. I use this word all the time, and I'm sure you do because it's such an easy answer, isn't it? How was your day? Oh, my day was good. How's your week been? My week's been good. Let's be honest. How many times do we use it? Now, there's nothing wrong with this word, but it doesn't give a lot of information. So let's look at 2 alternatives. We could use brilliant or fantastic. Now, both of these adjectives mean really good. So we're on the far end of good. If we feel really good, or we find something extremely pleasant or enjoyable, we can describe it as brilliant and fantastic. For example, we could say, that film was brilliant. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, meaning that we really enjoyed that film. And we have an extra phrase there. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, meaning that we were sitting forwards on our chair, waiting to see what would happen next. So, great alternative when we find something really good. Brilliant. Fantastic. Another way of saying that something is extremely good or enjoyable, we could say, you look fantastic in that outfit. I don't know what you were worrying about. Maybe a friend or a partner has come to us and said, oh, I don't feel too good in this outfit. I don't feel like I look great. Well, maybe you think they do. You could say, oh, you look fantastic. What are you worrying about? Rather than just saying, oh, you look good. Leaves room for some questions, doesn't it? To be careful with that answer. But you look fantastic. You look really good. You look extremely good. So 2 alternatives there. brilliant and fantastic. The next word we are going to look at is the antonym or the opposite of good, and that is bad. Of course, when something is bad, it's not up to our standards or we don't like it. For example, the weather is bad. Here in England, we end up saying that a lot of the time. The weather is bad because we don't like it. It's not up to the standard that we would like. We want some hot weather. So here are two advanced alternatives. Again, we could use these when we want to describe something that is very bad, on the far end of the spectrum of things that we consider bad. So we could use awful, awful, or terrible, terrible. For example, I'm so disappointed. The food last night was awful. Maybe you've been waiting to go to a particular restaurant for a long time. The food wasn't good. I'm so disappointed. The food last night was awful. It was very bad. And another alternative is terrible. For example, I had a terrible night's sleep. I don't know how I'm going to get through the day. Meaning that you had an extremely bad night's sleep. Maybe you kept waking up. You didn't fall into a deep sleep, and now in the morning you feel extremely tired. Rather than just saying I had a bad night's sleep, I had a terrible night's sleep. Two alternatives for bad there: awful and terrible. The next word we are going to look at is fast. Of course, when we talk about something being fast, we mean that it is moving or happening with speed. For example, that car is fast, meaning the car is moving at a fast pace. Nothing wrong with the adjective, but it doesn't give a lot of information. So two alternatives. The first alternative we can use is when something is moving extremely fast, we could say that it is rapid. It is rapid. When something happens at an extremely fast pace. We could possibly say there's been a rapid change in the economy, meaning that the economy has changed overnight at a very fast pace. There's been a rapid change in the economy. Or if we are talking about something at a relatively fast pace, we could say brisk. Brisk. For example, let's go for a brisk walk, meaning you're not going to walk slow. You're going to walk faster than your normal pace. So let's go for a brisk walk, a bit of a faster walk than normal. So two alternatives for fast: rapid and brisk. I'm sure you guessed what word was coming next. Of course, the opposite of fast is slow, moving without a lot of speed. For example, maybe we're behind a car in front. Oh, why is this car going so slow? Something very frustrating to go through. But here are some alternatives. We could say sluggish. Sluggish, meaning that someone or something is moving slower than it normally would. For example, I'm feeling sluggish after that lunch. We've all done it. We've been at work. We've had a much bigger lunch than we should have. How does that end up making us feel? Well, we move a lot slower, don't we? We feel sluggish. So rather than just saying, I feel slow this afternoon, I feel sluggish. I'm moving at a slower pace. Again, perhaps thinking of going for a walk rather than saying, let's go for a slow walk. I like this adjective. Let's go for a leisurely walk. So just a little bit slower than normal, just to move and walk in a nice and relaxed way. Let's go for a leisurely stroll this afternoon. We're not going to go fast. We're just going to go nice and slow in a relaxed way and enjoy it. So two alternatives there for slow: sluggish and leisurely. The next word we are going to look at is happy. Of course, if we are happy, we show that we are pleased about something, or that we are excited about something happening. For example, you look so happy today. Someone's got a big smile on their face. But here are two alternatives we could use. We could say delighted, which means that somebody is extremely happy, very happy. You know, when somebody walks into a room with a beaming smile, they're more than happy. They are delighted. For example, she was absolutely delighted with her gift. Maybe it's the gift she really wanted. A little bit more than happy. She's delighted. Or even beyond that, we could say ecstatic. Ecstatic, which means that we are just so unbelievably happy. For example, he was ecstatic when they won the league. There's some serious football fans in England. Nothing makes them happier than their football team winning. It makes them feel ecstatic. So rather than just saying he was happy when they won the league, he was ecstatic. We get the sense of just how happy he was. So 2 alternatives to happy there: delighted and ecstatic. You got the idea now? We're going to look at the opposite of happy, the antonym, which is of course sad. We're not feeling happy, or our mood is low. For example, I feel a bit sad today. Some days are just like that, aren't they? We just feel a little bit sad. But here are 2 alternatives. If our general spirits, emotion and feeling is not very high, we just woke up feeling a bit low, we could say that we're feeling down. For example, I don't know why, but I feel a bit down today. Sometimes we don't know why, do we? We just feel a little bit down. Down in the dumps, we might say, but meaning that our emotions, the way we just feel a bit sad. Or particularly after something has happened, a situation has happened and the result has made us feel sad or disappointed, we could say that we feel dejected. Dejected. For example, they felt dejected when they didn't win the contract. Maybe a particular company or a business have been putting so much time into winning this much needed contract. They don't get it. They feel dejected. They feel sad. So there's 2 alternatives for sad there: feeling down or dejected. Okay, the next word we are going to look at is clean. Of course, if something is clean, it is free from any dirt. Something my mother used to say to me all the time: go and clean your room. Okay, so my mother wanted my room tidied, to not be dirty anymore. 2 alternatives that we could use: spotless. I want this room spotless in 1 hour. Meaning we want it really clean. So not just the t-shirts shoved in the wardrobe as fast as possible or things pushed under the bed. We've all done it. We've all done it. When mum says clean the room, we just hide things. But no, I want it spotless. I want it really clean. Or more than that, pristine. Pristine, not a millimetre of dirt or uncleanness anywhere. It is ultimately clean. So maybe we do a good job. Mum comes upstairs and say, wow, his room is absolutely pristine. I don't think I ever did that good a job at tidying my room, but you get the idea. It means very, very clean. So we could say spotless or pristine. And we can use this to talk about different things. Maybe it's a car, a house, an office, a garden, whatever. But those adjectives are great for describing something that is very clean. And of course, the opposite of clean is dirty. When something is not clean, it's dirty. Perhaps we take our dog for a walk. Oh, don't let him in. His paws are dirty, meaning that they are covered in mud. Here's some alternatives we could use. Particularly British word here, grubby. Grubby. Another word for dirty, but kind of just on the same level. For example, you can't wear that grubby t-shirt to your interview. Maybe your friend or family member has an interview coming up for a job and you realise they're putting a bit of a dirty or grubby t-shirt on. No, they can't wear that. They need to look clean, spotless. So grubby, not very clean, a little bit dirty. Or if something is really dirty, we could say filthy. It is absolutely, extremely dirty. particularly this time in England, we could say, my car is filthy. I haven't had it washed in weeks. My car is filthy. I haven't had it washed in weeks. This time of year is a lot of mud, particularly in the rain. You get your car cleaned and within an hour, it is absolutely filthy again. So imagine what it's like when you leave it for 2 weeks. So there's 2 alternatives there to clean: grubby and filthy. Okay, moving on nicely. The next word we are going to look at is easy. If something is easy, of course, it takes little effort or not a lot of thinking. For example, that exam was easy. It wasn't a challenge at all. But we can also use the word simple to describe something as easy, particularly something that is easy to understand. For example, maybe your friend comes to you, says, I want to cook a dinner. I've got friends coming round. So you hand them a recipe and you say, don't worry, the recipe is so simple, you'll be fine. So maybe they're not an experienced cook, so you've given them a recipe that is simple. It's easy to follow, easy to understand. Or another alternative, if something is easy, we could say it is straightforward, easy to follow, easy to understand. For example, just follow the signs for the town centre. It's pretty straightforward. So maybe somebody asks for directions. So we say, just follow the sign for the town centre. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Don't need to worry about it. It's easy. You just follow those signs, you'll get to where you need to go. So there's 2 alternatives there for easy. We could say simple or straightforward. Okay, what about when something is hard? It is not easy. It is difficult. For example, rather than an exam being easy, the exam was very hard, meaning we found it challenging. 2 alternatives to the word hard are tricky. If something is tricky, it's difficult to deal with. It's not easy to handle a particular situation. For example, it's going to be tricky to get them to see our point of view. Again, maybe in a business setting, we are in a meeting with another company. We need them to get on board or to understand what we are saying, but that's going to be a tricky task to accomplish. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. Or another simple alternative we could use is tough. When something is tough, it's not easy. It's hard. Talking about football, they've got some great players. They're going to be a tough team to beat. They've got some great players, but they're going to be difficult to beat. It's not going to be easy to win this game. They're going to be tough to beat. So 2 advanced alternatives there for hard: tricky and tough. So we're going to move on to temperature now. Hot. When the weather is hot, of course, it is a high temperature. We could say, I think we're going to have a hot weekend. We can all hope. Here in England, we can hope. I think that's all we have right now. But yeah, we're going to have a hot weekend, meaning that the temperature is high. But if we want to talk about something being extremely hot, we could say that it is boiling. It is boiling. For example, it's boiling in here. Can we turn the air conditioning on? Maybe you're in a room. It's extremely hot. You're sweating. Can we turn the air conditioning on? It's boiling. Or another alternative with the same meaning is scorching. It's scorching. We had a great time on holiday. It was scorching every day, meaning that the weather was really hot every day, which is kind of what you want, isn't it? Well, I don't know about you, but it's what I want. When I go on a holiday, I want hot weather and a swimming pool. Absolutely perfect. But of course, look at the opposites, which is more common here in England when it is cold, when it is of a low temperature. As an example sentence, I've had enough of this cold weather. Don't want it anymore. It's not hot. 2 alternatives we could use. Bitter. It's bitter outside, meaning it's extremely cold. I'd wrap up. It's bitter outside. To wrap up is a phrasal verb to wear more clothes because it's cold outside. In this case, it's bitter. It's extremely cold. Or, of course, we could say it's freezing. It's freezing. As an example, it's freezing in here. Can I close the window? So maybe you're at a friend's house and they've got all of their windows open and you're sitting there shivering because it's so cold. It's freezing in here. Can I close the windows? So two alternatives for cold there. The bitter or bitterly cold, and it's freezing. Now, if you're anything like me, a lot of the time you feel confused about things, and that means you don't understand. For example, I'm confused. I thought you liked the gift. So maybe you give a gift to somebody and you notice they've not been using it, or they've put it away somewhere. I'm confused. I thought you liked the gift, meaning you don't understand what's happening. Here are two alternatives we could use. We could say perplexed. Perplexed, which means we are confused by a particular problem or situation that we are facing. Maybe we're doing our taxes or some kind of accounting. We could say, the calculations didn't add up again. I'm perplexed. We've added it up and it still doesn't work out. I'm utterly confused. I'm perplexed. Or a word that it's not used too often now, but I want it to be used more. I love this word. It is a brilliant advanced adjective, and that is to be bamboozled. To be bamboozled. To be completely confused. I am bamboozled by this game. I've got no idea how to play it. Perhaps you go around to somebody's house and they bring out a board game and they spend half an hour explaining the rules to you. You're bamboozled. You've got no idea what to do. You are completely and utterly confused. So two alternatives there for confused. Perplexed, and probably one of my favourites of this class, bamboozled. Hey, we're down to the last two. So the next word we are going to look at is big, which is of course large in size. For example, that's a big dog. The dog is large in size. Here are two alternatives. We could say enormous, meaning that something was extremely big. For example, our gas bill was enormous this month, meaning that we've had to pay a lot of money, a big amount of money for gas. Something that a lot of people are facing at the moment. But particularly when talking about size, we could say gigantic. When something is extremely big, for example, they are building a gigantic theatre in the city centre. It's going to be huge. Well, there's another one, huge. But yeah, gigantic, meaning that something is going to be extremely big. So enormous and gigantic. Okay, and we are on to our last two of the class. The opposite or the antonym of big is of course small, which means little in size. I only want a small car. Something where I can get around nice and easily. I only want a small car. Here are two alternatives. Minuscule. Minuscule, meaning very small or a very little amount of something. All I've had to eat is one minuscule piece of cake, meaning that all I've eaten is one tiny, tiny, small piece of cake. It's minuscule. And that moves us on to our next word, tiny. Tiny. Great word to use when something is extremely small. I'm still finishing up at the office. I might be a tiny bit late. Great sentence structure there. A tiny bit late. Meaning you're not going to be very late, but you're definitely going to be a little bit late. Tiny. So there's two alternative adjectives for small there. Minuscule and tiny. So there you go. There are 30 advanced English adjectives you can use to add to your vocabulary, to build upon what you already have. But please, just 2 points before we conclude this lesson. Remember, if you can, think about these words in your own life. So I've given you some general examples, but try and use them within the context of your own life. If you can do this, you are much more likely to remember them, and then they will permanently become part of your vocabulary. So there's the first tip. And secondly, I don't want you to stop using the standard or regular form of each adjective. We just want to build upon what we already have. So we don't want to go down the road of don't say this, but do say that. No, that's not what I like to do. just add to what you already have. Okay? We do not take away from our vocabulary. We simply keep on adding to it. Thank you so much for watching this lesson today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.